this computer. Okay, fantastic. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I know I already said that to all of you, but I'm just so excited to see everyone's faces. And I know there's more of you lingering without your faces joining us just yet. As you know, I'm Anne Ziarshka, the gallery director, and really excited to be welcoming you to yet another virtual reception and exhibition. And tonight is a really special one because this is our annual student show. So every year we host a group exhibition that we bring an outside juror into so you can have an outside perspective to get to look at your work and kind of contextualize it into a larger framework. And previous to kind of our current situation, we had invited Austin Pratt, who will talk kind of more about who he is, but he's definitely adjacent to us and actually works with us in the MFAIA program, to come and be our juror. And then once things kind of went a little sideways, I said, you know, Austin, would you be willing to still work with us, but kind of reimagine what it would look like to have a virtual exhibition that we know from the start we're going to be collecting the work digitally and showing it digitally. And so Austin jumped on board and kind of came up with this idea for Novel Matters. And so we're really excited to have Austin here with us tonight to kind of talk about his process for how he juried and how he decided to show us this work and think about it in the virtual realm. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Austin kind of give us a talk. We'll go through that. Feel free to use the chat. We'll ask some questions at the end. So stick around, and then kind of at the end of this, we have some fun announcements and things to do kind of together to really try and mimic in some ways our wonderful community that we all love so much as part of the art department from all of our different places. So I think without much more of wasting your time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it off to Austin, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute and turn off everyone's videos, but hang around, use all the things. Actually, how do I mute all? Okay. And then Austin, you got muted too. Is there a way I can't actually, can I turn off all? Okay, cool. And I'm just going to, let's get, can we get, oh, I'm gonna turn off videos for everyone. And we look forward to seeing you after Austin's talk.
And so there's some after party things going on as well after this talk?
Yes. So after the talk, after the questions, we will be hanging out and having some, oops, I don't want to. We'll be having a small after party kind of happening after this, so stick around. So Austin, I'm gonna disappear as well, and it's gonna be all you.
Okay, great. I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see here. Okay, I'm hoping that that everything looks good on everyone else's end. Hey everyone, my name is Austin Pratt. Thanks Anza for the lovely introduction. This has been such a wild and strange project to embark on. I feel like many people are going to the virtual and digital exhibition, but in a way, Anza and I kind of jumped on this pretty early in early March in anticipation of the student show going virtual. So we've been kind of stewing on the idea of what an online exhibition could be, and what we should do for this, and how to do due diligence and give good justice to an annual student art show, which is always a great thing for any institution. So this show we decided to call Novel Matters, and we were kind of thinking about the current jargon, you know, the novel coronavirus in some respects. And so how do we continue showing artwork that is very much of it is still in the kind of physical, haptic, and tactile, and in the physical world, and much of it is also in the sort of digital world. So thinking about those things as the kind of matters too. So like in a kind of contemporary sense or a history sense, but also in the kind of physicality sense of what matters and what is important, you know. So let's do this. It's loading kind of slowly. So the way I've set up this show is we decided to use Prezi as a format, which seemed to be an interesting decision to make in the kind of way where it's a presentation format where we can look at images, but also we were thinking about the quality that Prezi has to be nonlinear. So not just in the sort of normal way that a keynote or a PowerPoint might be just slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, but that we could do something a little bit more strange and sort of build rooms out or do something a little bit more nonlinear, as I was saying, like the way that we normally would encounter an exhibition space where there's not a beginning, middle, and end, but we know you kind of wander around and you might be attracted to this or attracted to that. And so everybody kind of has a different narrative or a different walk through the typical gallery space. So I'll start by talking a little bit about who I am. I'm primarily a painting and drawing person. I live in down the hill in Reno. Yeah, and I teach drawing at the University of Nevada in Reno and at UNR. And so I think about painting and drawing questions quite a bit. Obviously, several of these images are from a current show that I have that was essentially infinitely postponed, or not postponed, but extended. So it's still up in Fallon, Nevada, which is about an hour east of Reno, at the Oates Park Art Center. And so I was thinking about a lot of my work, I'm sort of interested in this in-between space, you know, the in-between abstraction and representation, in between here and there, in between recognizable and illegible. So a lot of these questions I'm always kind of thinking about, like, how do I hold on to something that, or how do I make an image or a painting that feels both in between even image and object? You know, I think about the quality of a painting just like as a sculpture, or a drawing as a sculpture, in the same aspect that I think of it as an image. And so always kind of testing those in between qualities. And so this show that I currently have up, it's called A Gate Wild Breathing. I was using this imagery of like a wrought iron metal fence or a gate, and thinking about that kind of barriers, again, like this sort of in-between place. But the gate served for me as a kind of both representing in the visual and physical space, the split between, you know, this side of the fence and the other side of the fence, but also as a kind of visual where I can have something that's more abstracted, and often like the gate can serve as a graphic sensibility. So something that's like both illusionistic in the pictorial sense, but also flat in the graphic sense. So you know, something like the patterns or the ornate patterns of a wrought iron fence I was thinking about as a kind of drawing sensibility, and also in this physical and pictorial realm. So these are some images from that show that's currently up. So it's a lot of different work. So there's paintings, and there's also ceramic sculptures, which I also think of them as kind of like painting objects, often like, you know, like shape paintings. So these are these ceramic hourglass forms, and these ceramic tombstone forms that also take on the quality of having a fingerprint, the indexical mark of the finger, right? And so there's a lot of play in my work in that regard, where there's a lot of formal leaping also. So like I was thinking about the tombstone or the grave as also the same shape as a fingerprint. And so like I'm not sure exactly what that association could entail, but even just by making that, like these are just the same formal shape. What if I try that? And so thinking about that in that kind of you know, the artist studio as a formal or like experimental laboratory, you know, like testing hypotheses, etc. And same with these hourglass things. So like thinking about They kind of migrate from, you know, the hourglass of an hourglass to the sort of hourglass marking on a black widow to a shaped painting, a ceramic form back to a sort of painterly form. So there's a lot of this kind of like oscillating, vibrating thing that I'm interested in. Let's see, whoops. So some more of these kinds of images. I just wanted to give you guys a sort of sense of what I've been up to in the last year, what the kind of questions I'm interested in. So sometimes things get totally and wholly non-objective, but often, you know, take on the characteristics of landscape, or the palette of a landscape, or the mark making of you know, the way that plants grow, or species distribution, or the way that rocks scatter, or something like that. I'm thinking about the kind of like fractal qualities of the natural world, but in the kind of like, you know, grotesque or abject, you know, raw painterly sensibility. Some other objects. These are these bronze sculptures I had made last year that were castings of ceramic forms that I had made. Thinking about like the goat head thorn that's so ubiquitous in Nevada and in this area, but sort of mutating it so it's like a little bit more, it's abstracted, it's taken away from that raw thorn sort of quality, but then it could be a heart now, or it could be a tooth, or it could be a small scale mountain or something like that. So a lot of these kind of formal leaping I like to think about. It's another image of these tombstone gestures, fingerprints, tombstones, but then also the kind of pictorial space that's in here. I'm thinking about this like maybe, you know, sunset in the desert or something like that, you know, really, really loose pointing to these things. And so I feel like the viewer can make a lot of the patterns, the pattern recognition. This is what I've been up to in the last couple months since quarantine. I thought that this would be interesting to show everyone because what we've asked everyone to do is be making work in their studios in whatever that capacity means, at home, away from the studio, away from school, away from campus. But I'm making these kind of raw, clumsy, goofy collages on manila envelopes. I still have my studio at home, fortunately, and so I've got all of my my paint materials and stuff like that. But after, you know, days and nights of Zooming all day, I'm sort of interested in this like just really raw, tactile sensibilities. And so I'm like cutting apart little scraps of old paintings or things that I find in my studio, and kind of using that as like a way to find new composition. So like maybe, who knows, like maybe these will turn into painting structures in the future. But I also like that collage points to the real. And so like I'm also like they serve as images, but each individual raw material in a collage also points back to the real. Like this is a real sticker of Jimbo. This is a real cardboard box. You know, and so they feel like hyperlinks or sort of ambassadors to other worlds. And that's why I think collage is so interesting in that kind of capacity, where it's both an image and an object, and it's like a whole bunch of, it's like a reference library. Like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Anyway, I've been talking a lot too much, but I just want to give you guys a sense of kind of what I've been up to and who I am. Otherwise, let's go to the galleries, shall we? So the way I've broken this up is, let me go back here a little bit, is into, in the way that we called, Anza and I called for student work, was to ask about this quality of the strange, but also we broke it up into 3 categories. So we were looking for both thinking about this idea of the strange or the surreal or the uncanny, and something about this move to the digital world or this disruption in society from COVID-19, any of these sort of reactions to the world, or the sort of unsettling or strange or unnerving characteristics of what we're working with. We are also thinking about, I call this quick wit, but I was thinking about the kind of economy of means that we have. At UNR, I'm sure it's the same at SNU, but we were basically just locked out completely one day, and many of the students had left, you know, abandoned paintings and all of their materials, and then were kicked out of the dorms and had to be sent home to wherever they happened to be, you know, Sacramento or Vegas or something like that. And so, so we're in small rooms with our families or friends or wherever, and we may or may not have our materials with us, or may not have access to our studio processes. And so, but as artists, we have this kind of ingenuity and resourcefulness and creativity. And so we wanted to celebrate and champion the economy of means, as we were, you know, thinking about it, or resourcefulness or ingenuity that artists have at this time. So what can we make with the materials that are in our studio, or our homes, which are now our studios? How, you know, if we've lost our paint or whatever, maybe we're switching to a different material. Maybe we're going totally digital, or maybe we're making new things that we have access to at home. Lastly, we were thinking about, I call it reflection, which seems sort of straightforward, but thinking about the role of the artist in this time. So we have the kind of strange, we have the sort of ingenuity of artists, but we also have the something that is like maybe a little bit more introspective at this time. Like we're thinking about what is the role of art in a charged political time or socioeconomic time. Like there's so many things piling up on top of each other right now, and in many cases, art is relegated to the dustbin. But there's so many important reasons why we must continue, and why art is a great beacon of new ideas and hope and many sort of things for all of us. So these are the kind of things that we were thinking about in these three parts. So yeah, let's begin. Let's start with the strange. Okay, so here's our first gallery. I'll just do a sort of walkthrough. I've kind of got a route going, but if you've got the Prezi link, you're more than welcome to, you know, maybe after the talk, have a look around. Like I said, I was really interested in the sort of non-linear quality. So being attracted to what you see in the gallery first, or what grabs your attention. I think this is always the best way of viewing art, is seeing and responding to what works for you. But briefly, I've got a kind of a quick little loop around, and as I was sort of making connections between everyone. So let's look at some submissions. Hopefully everything is loading. It looks kind of fuzzy. So some of these, a lot of these submissions are videos, and so I'm showing a still from the video first. So this first video is from AJ Simpson, and it's called Tokyo. And some of these we'll watch in their full length, and some of them I'll just skip around a bit. So AJ's got this really cool glitch video piece that kind of is connecting these major urban centers. I'm imagining Tokyo with the natural world. Let's see here. And I've kind of made some loose groupings in these. The next video is from Courtney B. Ropp, Modern Times Now. Courtney's got a modern times chaplain take on social distancing with this key solution. Let's see, and also in this kind of grouping, we've got Casey Griffin, I believe. Another sort of, digital photo that's blurred out. I was thinking about this section in a kind of the blurry or glitched out response to our urban or sort of social environment in this strange world. Let's see, where are we next? Okay, next we've got Utopia from Ezra Albert, this lovely collage that is in the kind of like unhinged. In the next couple of these pieces I was thinking about in this kind of unhinged quality, this strange, like politically or psychologically or humorously sort of unhinged from the world. And that seems sort of strange and also like maybe healthy. Next, we've got Eliza Fernand, grad student in the MFA program. This video is called Having a Day. Today is a bad day. So again, I feel like that Eliza carries this one away into that just totally unhinged, doing makeup alone for yourself in the apartment quality. Let's see what is next. We've got Victor Herrera. I feel like this also works in that kind of unhinged quality. Let's see here. Next up in the gallery, we've got another Ezra Albert collage. I sort of buttressed his two collages around Victor's. There were some, I feel like some interesting formal and also, I don't know, just a strange move. We've got Lauren Murphy next with This Is Pac-Man. A narrative film animation where I believe Pac-Man gets eaten by a ghost in his hammock. Kind of skip around here for time. Sunny day in the hammock, and the ghost comes down, chops it up. That's no good. Okay, up next we've got Hannah Fridholm. Breathe. Now I've paired Hannah and Brian Uribe together in this gallery. Their work seems to pair well nicely, both formally in the kind of black and white sense, but also these two videos sort of speak to this, I don't know, maybe psychological horror, dream horror. There's a kind of Lynchian quality to this video and to Brian's. I appreciate the mystery. Let's see, Brian Uribe, sound hack. This is this spooky Lynchian ceramic studio world. Late night when Sherry's not around. It's a mystery. All right, next we've got another AJ Simpson video. And now these next few I've paired into kind of, I noticed a sort of turn to the natural that happened in many of your guys' work. But in these particular, there's a sort of unsettling characteristic that relates to that strange, the city disintegrating and the natural world coming back. There's a doubling in this video where the same chain of events happens twice, which I think is really interesting. I was thinking about twins or doubling or mirrors or something. There's also this chopped and screwed version of Billy Joel. Moving out, you know, getting out of the small town. Something about it does it for me in this one. The banality of the urban world, something. Okay, we've got Gabe Sivak, Distanced. There's a lot of mandala, Andy Goldsworthy, natural world collage submissions that I got. I think most of them made it in, but I think it's just like an interesting kind of turn both to the natural world and the kind of the haptic or the tactile sensibility. This one's called Distance, so you know, maybe the title gives us something about a narrative here. Disoriented Steelhead. This is a short GIF. something, I don't know, maybe humorous in here, or introspective. There's a kind of a piece to it, even though the steelhead is disoriented. Okay, wrapping into, oh, whoops. I wonder if I didn't, I think I skipped these 2 videos in my chain. This is Nikki Sardelli. The last 2 videos in this gallery, I was thinking about the kind of this turn to the maybe ritualistic, sort of strange new rituals or coping mechanisms or behaving patterns. This video is called Self-Care, but I was thinking about this kind of like ritualistic process of self-care. The unicorn. And then we've got Victor Herrera again. This one is called Love, Death.
백마강 달밤에 물새가 울어 잃어버린 옛날이 애달프구나
Okay. Yeah, again, those last 2 videos, I was thinking about that sort of ritualistic quality. There's this, it's a sculpture, it's a video, it's a documentation, but also maybe perhaps some really bizarro narrative. Okay, so now we're into our second gallery. I'll try to move a little quick and give everybody some due time. So again, this second gallery, we're thinking about the resourcefulness of artists, a sort of economy of means, doing the best with what you've got. Let's see what we've got here first. So this first submission was a Aaron Schultz GIF. I'll just try to keep playing it. Called Essentials. So part of this this gallery and a lot of the sort of economy of means submissions or the things that we were thinking about were, or what ended up popping up was this turn to the ready-made. So we know Duchamp and Jeff Koons and Andy Warhol, and the sort of using the materials that you've got to make the work. And so a lot of these submissions, I think, speak to that ready-made and not using the art materials from Blick or whatever, but finding what is in here. We've got Emily McCusker, Around My House. What's around the house? We've got, Brian again with Adult High Chair. So there's kind of a humor and a levity, I feel like, to this, but also maybe like a pointed a political gesture, if you will, but also again this turn to the ready-made, and I quite like all of this, just the house and the yard in the background as well. Jordan McDonald, plastic gold, more, solo cups, gold paint. What's around the house? I was thinking in this, there's a sort of viral sensibility in some respects. We've got Jacob Peterson, Cadillac Tic-Tac-Toe, another ready-made sculpture. In situ, I sort of imagine that these elements were already in this location, and I like that as well. And Lucas, Mad Dog Angier, Open Your Eyes. This kind, yeah, again, the kind of using the collage paint, looks like plywood. I love that kind of that kind of tactile quality here. We've got a couple mandalas from the natural world, Kathy Weimar and Julia Hart, Untitled and Bleak. And so yeah, this is sort of like, I appreciate this, again, this like turn to the natural world, but also the kind of like turn to the mathematical world, or looking for beauty, finding things and making beauty from them. Chante Lawson, Quarantine. I think there was several trash and show submissions, which I loved to see, that fit so perfectly, I think, with this assignment, I imagine, and also into this gallery space and thinking about this show. Hot couture in your bedroom, right? Taylor May, just a hat from the dorm room. And we've got Gabby Dodd, Trash and Show.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Are you ready for this? Oh shit! When I come to the club, step aside.
11 out of 10. The resources of your the people you're with too. I think that this counts. Up next, we've got another video from Eliza Fernand. This one is called Finding New Ways. The next two, I believe, were towards the end of this gallery space, but Eliza and Ryan McCarthy, there's a sort of another resourcefulness that's happening. In Finding New Ways, Eliza's kind of talking about the erotic touch and finding new ways of self-care, self-love, right? And sort of it's and that I think that speaks to the kind of isolation or social distancing characteristic that we're all going through, obviously, but also, yeah, we're not just being resourceful with our studio practices, but also maybe our psychological practices or erotic practices.
Hi, how are you? I'm fine, I guess. Everything is different, but I'm just here, I'm just the same. Have you been close to anyone? In my dreams, I'm close to strangers, and it makes me anxious. All of my dreams put me on edge. When I'm waking up, I have to
When I'm
undress
waking up,
layers of
I
doubt,
have to undress
regret, and panic
layers of
that have
doubt,
built up in these
regret,
normal
and
scenarios.
panic that have built up in these normal scenarios.
What will it be
What will
like
it
when I'm
be
touched
like when
again?
I'm touched again?
How long will it be?
How long will it be? I'm
finding new ways to touch myself. I like that I'm not allowed to be around anyone.
Anyone.
I don't know if I want to go back.
I don't know if I want to go back.
And then lastly, how do I get out of here? Lastly, we've got Ryan McCarthy's diptych photograph, The Couple or Socially Distancing. And something I think that I paired Eliza, Fernand, and Ryan together in this, small hallway of the gallery in that same sort of, I don't know, mentally or psychologically or emotionally, how are we being resourceful with our materials? Yeah. And there's a levity, I think, and a humor to that photograph I love. Okay, let's get to this last gallery, reflection. So again, here we're thinking about the role of the artist and the question of art and the importance of art, or the question, is art important at this time, and especially during difficult times? Why make art? And what does it do? I particularly love this GIF from Sarah Mochel. Very short, very direct. Let's see here, once more. We're in Arial, lowercase, sense is misspelled, but there's this rotating thing that's happening. I think that everyone can relate to, this sort of oscillating or vibrating uncertainty. This reminds me of a Bruce Nauman neon sculpture or something like that. It's got this kind of ambiguity to it and simplicity that I love. Very nice. We've got Sarah Cragg's Water Warrior. This, I think also, I suspect might have to do with the trash and show submissions. But in this triptych, there's a kind of narrative that's happening and a kind of character development. I'm imagining who this person is without any prior knowledge, but it seems a sort of like superhero water figure in the desert, obviously. Again, there's a kind of like narrative to this superheroes. Next, we've got Gabe Sivak porch camping video animation. The days pass by, the nights pass by. I think it's a very simple gesture. I think we're stuck at home, but the natural world pervades. Next, we've got another Ryan McCarthy sculpture GIF called It's Thursday. I love these lazy Sundays. It's Thursday. Is it playing? It's Thursday. Next, we've got a small little gallery hallway over here with James Cohen, Jordan McDonald, and Brendan Morris. There's a sort of turn or thought about the kind of medical science realm or world that we're constantly inundated with right now. And so some of these things feel like nice, both political gestures, but also coming from the heart and from the brain. James Cohen, Morphine Disconnected. It's got this sort of David Cronenberg quality, the kind of body horror, hourglasses and eyeballs and retinas and plenty of things I'm sure James knows about that I don't. Ears and noses. Jordan McDonald, Blanket Mask. This sort of woven blanket of the now iconic mask silhouette that we're familiar with. I like this as a formal image already, though, you know, without even just this composition of this photograph. And so that's something else that we're thinking about in this show is like how can we both make work, but also is the documentation part of the presentation, is part of the work. And then we've got Mask, again from, can't remember who I said that was, Brendan Morse. Next, there's a sort of tenderness I was thinking about that seems really important in that respect of the role of the artist. Hannah Fridholm, ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered here today. Oh, this is going to show it to me upside down. Well, we can still see it. This funerary assemblage to a dead bird, I suspect, maybe ceramic and fur. I can't remember what the materials were. But there's this quality of care and touch and response to the world, and a slowness that I think is really indicative of what good art can be, especially right now. We've got Jacob Peterson, Wood on Wood in the Woods, another kind of comic gesture, but I also sort of appreciate the presentation in this, definitely appreciate the presentation in this drawing, or in this wood burning. It's the subject matter, it's the material, it's the location. And then, I don't know why I'm showing all the images sideways. Chris and Victory, Rings and Goblet. Let me go back a tad bit so we can see them. Oh no. Cast metal sculptures, and the way that the submission, Kristen spoke about a sort of recreation of a lost ring. And so I was sort of thinking about memory and nostalgia, and also the sort of the heirloom, and I don't know, something about that kind of that touch or that quietude seems to speak of what our job is right now as artists in some ways. We've got Stephanie Furjo, Brighter Tomorrows, this painting diptych of kind of brightness and light, and also, you know, using the sort of the wine cork as an indexical mark here. Many bottles of wine, I'm sure, for all of you in quarantine. And then we've got Nikki Sardelli, New Growth. This may be the end of the show. Oops. No. It's real wild at the end. Yeah. So that I believe is the end. I guess, yeah, I was putting Nikki's drawing or video next to this other diptych from Stephanie Furjo. And also just thinking about the kind of the formal jump, you know, and sometimes the role of the artist is just new formal character or new formal associations and not being sure exactly what, you know, it's not cerebral, but maybe more a bodily response to the world. Let's see where we're at now. Whoops. Okay, that was everything in the last gallery. So that brings us back to wrapping up the show. I think I will happily entertain any questions or figure out what the next move is. Anza. Let's see.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin. That was, I mean, fantastic for so many reasons. One, I appreciate how much time and thoughtfulness you put into kind of contextualizing the students' work, especially kind of as a whole and within this time period. But also, that was awesome to see all the amazing work that the department and students have been making, especially in this time. So thank you for that. Here, we're going to open it up to questions. Feel free to pop on your mics and videos to do this and ask Austin about his artistic practice or kind of how he approached this or things he was thinking about, kind of whatever comes up for you. No questions?
All right.
Awesome. Well, we're waiting here for people to formulate their questions. Part of the annual student show is that there are monetary prizes that the juror picks.
That's
and
right.
I was wondering if you wanted to announce who those winners are. Or not winners.
I would
those
love
awards
to.
go to.
So we've got some cash prizes, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the tune of 100 smackaroos, big ones. And again, the way that we formulated the galleries is how we announced the show in the first place, and announced that there would be awards in those 3 categories too. So if I may, I'll proceed, and let's go to the galleries.
Also, for those who aren't watching the chat, I'm going to quickly read out Mary's comment, which is, I have tears in my eyes. Way to go, artists. You're doing good work and can't wait to get back into the studio and work with you all.
Oh,
So
nice.
your faculty are feeling it. Oh, thank you, Shannon. We have a shout out from Shannon about how lucky we are to be able to bring this art into our living space. Very grateful to the artists and to you, Austin.
Thank you all. Yeah, I missed the chat. I was talking, so I'll have to go through and see. Okay, so I'm gonna go to let me try to, oh, here we go. Let's go for Strange first. Come on, let's load. I'm gonna have to figure this out in a different way.
Mary said artists always go to the strange first.
That's right.
Also, while Austin is navigating this, Chris put out a question in the Zoom kind of for students, which is, I'm curious to hear from some of the students whose work was shown, how it felt to have someone interpret their work for an audience. So students who were shown, where Austin kind of contextualized your work as an outsider, be thinking about if you'd be willing to share with us kind of some of those thoughts or feelings.
Oh no, this is gonna take too long. I'm gonna exit out of this.
For all of our viewers, Austin put a link in the chat box. It's the very first thing in the chat box to the Prezi gallery exhibition, which will be hosted there. So we have an archive of it, but it's also the living and kind of breathing exhibition. Oh, you're ready, Austin. Take it away.
Okay, cool. Without further ado, for the award, I wish I would have properly titled these. For the award of the strangest, weirdest response to our time as artists, the award goes to Victor Herrera, Love, Death.
Yay!
This was this video. So many strange submissions, of course, but by far the weirdest thing I've seen in some time. And I think that I don't know if this was initially a sculpture and this was just a great documentation of it and a funky way to show this work, but the whole gestalt of this like suburban house with this fat, with a weird tiny figure in it, the whole thing is overwhelmingly strange for me. Now let's move to, see if I can like drag around. This is my first time on Prezi, so I'm winging it. Now for our second award, for economy of means, the most resourcefulness and ingenuity. So many tough contenders here, but I would like to award this prize to Around My House from Emily McCusker, which is this GIF.
Yay, Emily.
I don't know if it's gonna work. Oh, that's not it.
Austin learned Prezi to do this, so thank you.
It's working. Something about this, there was a lot of the trash and show submissions, all excellent, but I think that Emily's really taken it above and beyond in this work, where the video is the work, the documentation is the work, the haute couture is the work, the gift is something strange, and so this is like a really excellent presentation for something that might otherwise just be a regular documentation photograph. So very nice work. Again, a lot of tough contenders. Okay, let me see if I can like forward through this. Okay, and for our last award, Anza, is everybody on mute?
Yeah.
Do you want to bring up some juice?
Yeah, you guys, should I unmute everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, you're all going hot. Okay, get ready.
Gotcha.
Okay. You can mute yourself back if you don't want us to hear you.
I think this is the good community time.
Congratulations.
I don't want to hear myself talk.
Thank you.
Okay, for the last award for Novel Matters annual Sierra Nevada University Student Art Exhibition 2020, in the category of the role of the artist, the introspective, romantic poet in us all, I would wish to, drum roll please, give this award to Porch Camping by Gabe Sivak.
Yay, Gabe.
Thanks.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to show it. I'm trying to. Again, I spoke a little bit about this video, but I think it was a really
And I couldn't hear you guys.
animation, and a kind of a really light and like soft response to our time, but through that kind of gesture of just both the title and our perspective here, we kind of get a sense of this narrative, and I feel like it's like a really understated response to home isolation or social distancing or what this current time is. Formally, it's gorgeous. There's a lot of stuff going on in color and motion. We've also got a little scene break, a little zoom in of these ladybugs, and then back to our exterior shot. We move in and out of day. So even with a short, 50-second video, which was probably, countless frames, I appreciate the labor and animation. But with just a few subtle gestures, I think that this is a really nice response to what artists can do with our time. So congratulations and thank you for this great submission. And again, tough call for all of these. So much good work.
Yay. Congrats to everyone. And for the 3 specific awardees, I will be in touch with you about getting you your $100 prize. Congrats. Okay. So, does anyone have any questions for Austin? Send a question out there. Okay. Go Victor. Sorry.
I have a question. I'm wondering what the art department is like at UNR. I don't know if you can speak to some of that.
What about the art department?
I don't know. I'm just curious what the environment is like. Are people doing sculptures there? Are people really into videos, or is there a little bit of everything?
Yeah, so I mean, UNR is a kind of like a major tier 1 research school, but the art department is a little smaller than I think other similarly sized schools. But like wonderful painting studio, printmaking facilities, huge sculpture studio, ceramic studio. There's about one faculty basically for each area, and a pretty new grad department or grad school, and so I think within the last 10 years they've started an MFA program, and that's sort of coming along. The BFA program is excellent there, like really way more rigorous than I think a lot of other similarly sized schools and stuff. So I don't know, it's pretty active, and there's a long history of a lot of really great students and faculty artists there, and so it's a pretty solid community. It's a great place to be around.
Nice. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, Mary, do you not get video?
I think everybody's video is off, Anza.
I can't.
Maybe I need to do it. Hold on. Oh, I'm good.
There, did that work?
Don't know.
Everyone should not have video capabilities. There we go.
Yeah, if people want to turn on videos, ask some questions.
It's cool to see some familiar faces.
Chat.
I don't know everybody, but
It's saying the host has to let me
add the video again.
Okay. If you
Logan,
wanna-
great to see you. Great to see some alum.
Hey.
Huh?
Anna, where are you at?
I'm in my studio.
Where is that?
The courthouse building in Incline.
Oh, you're in Incline, cool.
Were there any students who wanted to talk about how it was like to have someone talk about your work? No.
Come on.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy listening to what other people have to say about my work. Yeah, just in general, like I think it's interesting. So, yeah, thanks for doing that.
Of course, thank you guys.
Okay, any questions?
I'm just scanning through the chat. I wasn't sure if I missed anything in the chat.
Yeah, or if I need to do something as a host to get your video up, let me know.
Yeah, Rick has no video.
Austin, where do you see with the progression now that you've done a show in a digital manner like this? And we really appreciate it. It was awesome. But where do you see this progressing in the future? Like, how do you see this developing as a platform? Because now that you have experience with Prezi, and I'm sure you tried other programs as well. And where do you see it developing as a medium, actually? Because it takes a lot of different things into account. And so I was just curious what you think moving forward it's going to look like.
Yeah, it's super weird. I mean, a lot of the conversations that I was thinking about and that Anz and I were having, you know, ahead of even the submissions were just this, there's like maybe like two prongs, like how to like, are people going more digital and making their first videos ever, their first GIFs, or experimenting with, you know, digital drawing or what have you. But then the other thread is just like, you know, people are going to be continually making physical work and making paintings and making drawings and making sculptures. And so like, how do we show that in the online way, you know, is a question, you know. And so that was part of the kind of the gesture of the call for submissions, was thinking about like how, you know, if you're making something in the physical world, how are you presenting it online, you know, just like we think about, you know, and ask students like how are you presenting your drawing for critique, you know, is your paper all wrinkly and is it hung crooked? Are you being aware of presentation and, you know, given due diligence and respect to your peers and all, you know, all the things that you would do in art school and talk to students. But also thinking about like, are you making something physical and then it has to undergo some sort of slight processing to be into the digital world, you know, like making a GIF of a sculpture or like Emily's, you know, dress, you know, like glitching out the video and making it more of a sort of formal or flattened thing. So I don't know, it's a question that surely a lot of people are thinking about right now, and I don't know the answers, but I like the kind of two-prong, like, you know, continue diving deep into the touch, into the physical, into the physiological, into the optic, and then also, you know, into the formal qualities or characteristics of the digital world, which are, you know, the network, the community, the decentralized space, like so many like of the important qualities that the internet has, you know, like how do we exploit those or subvert those rules, or, you know, I don't know those answers, but it seems like there's, you know, a couple directions to be moving towards or away from. I'm just making dumb stuff, you know, I'm like gluing, you know, pieces of paper together in my studio. I'm like, it feels like super satisfying. Seems like the right thing to do right now. It's like a right gesture of just like touch and like, I'm just, you know, and that seems like the smartest thing I could be doing. Thanks, James. How was your BFA show, James?
You should check out the link. I liked it, but it was different, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. Is there's like online, I did a lot of paintings that were scaled up, and so I'm looking at different ways of presenting them other than just photographing them as flat detailed work. And so and maybe like animating the way through them. And I took a special effects class with Chris, and it's actually helped a lot with the way I look at a flat 2D plane and how to approach it with a lens. So there's a lot of cool stuff to look at in this medium about how you show your stuff. And so I had a good time, and I enjoyed it and made some fun work, and looking forward to keep I had 3 paintings that didn't make the cut that I'm still finishing. So it was a good experience.
Yeah, you gotta send me the link to your show. I want to see those. Those drawings are nice looking.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording. This is going to kind of end the lecture aspect of this evening's festivities, shall we?